The following program is intended for mature audiences.
He's standing in front of the net with about 8 inches of his shaft in his hand.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Well, you know who's 7-1.
The Angels.
I was also going to say the New York Mets.
Oh.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah, the Mets are 7-1. Ohtani,
Frankie mid.
Giancarlo Stanton is a bust.
Yeah, did you see Yankee fans booed him after? Well, I mean, a 5 strikeout day is
he had
not
2
great.
5 strikeout games in 3 days, man. That deserves a boo. But yeah, early season baseball, prime for overreaction.
Oh, definitely. Well, I know after the first weekend, I was watching people talk about how Yu Darvish is a bust with
Chicago,
and Gabe Kapler's the worst manager in baseball, which I think that might be true.
In his first 3 games, over like 27 innings, he threw 21 pitchers.
Right. He ran out of pitchers like the second game of the year. You just don't do that.
Oh my God, that's amazing! I had no idea that happened.
No, literally, in the second game of the season, they had to throw an outfielder on the mound.
They sure did. Yeah.
Oh God, that is just slightly ahead of the accountant who played goalie for the Chicago.
Oh, that was awesome.
He was really cool in the post game interviews too.
I had no idea that the NHL did that. I think it's a great idea.
Oh, yeah, it's called the emergency goaltender.
It's something completely original to the NHL. Like I don't think you could do this viably in any other sport.
Doesn't he show up every game though as the emergency goalie?
Yeah.
Well, so it's not exactly like dragging somebody out of the stands. I mean, essentially it is, but
a lot of teams had they didn't have. This wasn't required before this season, maybe 2 years ago. You had a guy on call, but you didn't have guys in the arena all the time.
Right.
But they made it required 2 years ago, I think. And so the Kings had a full on tryout for people to just do it, and your prize is you get season tickets to your local hockey team.
Yeah.
And should the unthinkable happen like this, then
didn't he?
You got your gear.
Didn't he stop 7 shots? I think it was, or was it 5?
Yeah.
5
7
or 7
shots.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
He including a Dustin Bufflin slap shot.
He wasn't he perfect in the outing?
Yeah.
7. Yeah.
I just thought it was cool. I don't know. I would have been just shitting myself if they stuck me in that in an NHL game. I mean, okay, Mike, you're the good person to ask.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, no one expects you to go out there and pitch a shutout against NHL competition, but would you think you would rise to the occasion, or would you just go, oh my God, and become a sieve automatically?
I would like to think that I would, rise to the occasion. If you're able to kind of get in the zone, I could see it possibly happening where if you just force yourself to calm down and focus on the task at hand, you can get through it.
Yeah. And it depends on the quality of shots.
Right.
I'm sure as soon as the Blackhawks know that they've got just some dude in net, they start playing maybe a little bit better defense.
Right.
Make sure that he's not getting a breakaway on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the quality of the shots, that is very important. I saw Martin Brodeur with a shutout against the Jackets a few years ago, and I swear to God, he stopped 15 shots the whole game, and I'm thinking I could have stopped 8 of them myself. They were such, because the Jackets are coming off, they just played the night before in Minnesota. They were clearly night game, then playing an early afternoon game. They were so dead and all that, and it was just, I said, that's the cheapest shutout you're ever going to see in your life. And I'm not taking anything away from Brodeur, but that one he should have thrown back. But anyway, it was cool as hell seeing that guy get to do that. I thought that was pretty neat.
Indeed.
And then, what were we talking about, Ohtani before that?
Yeah.
I was going to, back to him for a second. And I don't mean this as a knock against his abilities or anything, but why don't we see more guys that can do what he's doing? Because most pitchers, and I understand that they focus on it more once you sign a professional contract, But most of these guys could hit and play before they became pitchers exclusively. So I don't know why we don't see more of this.
Covering high school baseball, usually the best hitter on the team is also usually the best pitcher. Yeah. At least in high school. And they hit every single day they're not pitching. Right. And they'll hit on the days they are pitching. I don't know. I do think it's probably just that once they get into the major league system, you got to pick one. We got to focus on making you one or the other.
You know, you spend all that money on a guy, and you're paying him to pitch. Mm-hmm. One, you don't want him. Time spent in the batting cage is time spent not practicing being a pitcher. Right. And again, if you're investing millions of dollars in this guy to be a pitcher, then he damn well better be pitching all the time. And then I also think it's a case of kind of related to that. You don't want any injuries. Like not to say that they're plentiful, but you don't want to risk it. Like you don't want him to have a bad day in the batting cages where, maybe he gets hit the wrong way and you're screwed. Right. Or it pulls a ribcage muscle or whatever, which, because, plus too, when you've got the stuff like Ohtani's got, I think in the United States, they're going to keep you on the mound. And, I think I had perfect game stuff on Sunday. And was that his first or second start, Zach? Sunday. Second.
That was his second start. Yeah. He pitched last Sunday in Oakland. Coincidentally enough, he played Oakland in his first two pitching start. And from last game through the start of this game, he retired 27 consecutive Oakland Athletics. So kind of a perfect game. Yeah. But when we're talking about why don't we see more of this? Even with Ohtani, the sense around the Angels was that if he started to fail as a hitter early on, they might have given him a month and be like, okay, you can't hit. We're just gonna pull back on this and let you pitch. So I think that there was gonna be a quick trigger on that for the Angels side of it anyway. The fact that he's come in and done what he's done on the mound and done what he's done with the bat is you can't not do it. Right. I just the only thing you have to at this point. Right. If he can hit, and God knows, if he came out in his first game and went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts and looked bad, right? They'd be like, well, maybe we'll hold you back on the next game there, Shohei, and try again next week. But he comes out, hits a homer in his first at bat, hits a homer the next day, hits a homer the next day, 12 strikeouts on Sunday. He's a freak, man. It's amazing. Yeah, he's really doing something that, literally probably hasn't been done since Babe Ruth. The last time that somebody got 2 wins in a week and hit a home run was 1919. Yeah. And like I said, it was probably Babe Ruth. No, it wasn't even Babe Ruth. It was some other guy. But yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore. And I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And I was reading a thing where they were saying that he was screwing up, taking away playing time from someone. And I thought, maybe playing time, yeah, but he basically opens up 2 spots on your roster, this guy. Yeah. You can carry an extra utility player because of him. Well, it's not even that though. So because of the way that he pitches in Japan, he only pitched once a week. So the Angels are trying to accommodate that and trying to get him in the lineup hitting. So they're going with a 6-man rotation. So they're not really taking away an extra pitching spot. You're still operating with 5 starters, and then you have Ohtani. And then when it comes to the lineup, he's DHing. It's not like he's playing the field. And so I guess you're making Albert Pujols play first base a little bit more than maybe he wanted to. But I also, over the past couple of years, I've had the feeling that Pujols hates DHing all the time and would rather play first base. I think even if he's not all that great at it, but he'd rather be in the field. Yeah. So I think it kind of works out for all sides. And the fact of the matter is, outside of him, the Angels are just playing great too. So it's kind of easier to have him in the lineup when other guys are hitting and the pitching is doing okay, otherwise. So it's fine for right now. We'll see what happens when, he hits that inevitable wall where maybe he gets blasted in back-to-back starts or something and, goes 0 for 4 on 2 straight days or something like that. Yeah, but even if that happens, you can't react too quickly because it happens to everybody. Of course.
It would not be special if that happened to him. You've seen guys, I mean, I don't know, maybe Clayton Kershaw, maybe not. I'm sure it's happened. But as a rule, even the best pitchers go out and have a couple of bad games in a row. You'll see great hitters go 0 for 30 over a stretch. And it's just fun. I mean, it's just neat to see that it's happening. And stodgy old baseball is trying something cool, which I think is neat. And he's succeeding, which is even better.
Yeah, I think the only other guy that I could think of that could probably do it, and didn't they put him as a DH once, Madison Bumgarner? I could have sworn when the Giants played an American League game, they put him at DH once.
I think either that or he pinch hit. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he would be the only guy that comes to mind, right? Because he rakes when he is pitching, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting as hell experiment, and it's working.
And it's not even costing him that much.
No, well, that's the great thing too, is because of his age, the Angels can only pay him minor league money. Yeah,
if he had waited one more year, it would have cost a whole lot more money to do this. But he wanted to play in the majors right away, so he's getting league minimum, I think, which is what, $525,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah, which isn't chump change, of course. But
no,
here's the thing too: you come in with that 1 year deal to do, pay what you're paid, and then you do this. I mean, the Angels control his rights, thankfully, but. He's gonna make his money next year and the years following for sure. If he can continue doing this, and he probably won't be able to do this for the entirety of his career. I wouldn't think. Maybe he can, but I would doubt it. But either way, if he wants to stick with being a hitter, he can do it. If he wants to stick with being a pitcher, he can do it. It's just
Yeah, I mean the guy's got perfect game stuff. That he's a pretty good pitcher, and
and I think that's what made his second start too a little bit more impressive. Was both of his games have been against the A's, so it's not one of those things where this is the first time that they've ever seen the guy. Yeah. The A's already saw him once; they already had tape. They know how to react to him, and he still took a perfect game into the seventh.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, granted, it's the A's, but still, they're a major league team, and they're not that bad,
No.
And like you said, it was their second time seeing him, and usually that's the argument. Okay, let everybody see him once, and then we'll see how it goes. And still a very small sample size, but it's just a lot of fun watching this happen.
Oh, sure.
And
it's making me pay attention to April baseball for the first time. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's like I wouldn't care about a Sunday game against the A's on April 8th. Like, come on, whatever. Like, but the Angels are good, so I'm keeping track of them. But whenever it's a Shohei day, you gotta watch.
Yeah,
it's gluing you to the TV.
Well, it was like, great. I mean, it's obviously a different type of player, but it was like when Ichiro first came over.
Sure.
The Mariners were must-see baseball because you'd heard so much about this guy, and then he shows up and he lives up to it. I remember the first time I saw him play in person, it was in Cleveland. I've never seen a guy to this day run down to first as fast as Ichiro could do it. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like they shot him out of a cannon.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that people haven't talked about Ohtani too much yet because he hasn't got the chance to showcase it. He's fast.
Yeah,
he's like a perfect athletic specimen. He's like 6'5", like built like he's built in a lab. This guy, but yeah, I can't wait to see him do more. And Sunday's game was sold out, and there were a crap ton of Japanese fans there.
Oh, good.
And that's great for the Angels. They're going to be selling out games in April and in May, and that's not something you can ever be mad about.
They're going to be pretty solid this year. I mean, they've got a pretty good everyday lineup, and if the pitching staff holds up, I think they'll be tough.
Yeah. I mean, the Astros are still as good as ever, at least in this first week, but Angels are right there.
Yeah.
See how it goes for the next 5 months.
Yeah, we got 6 months. Got plenty of time to work it all out. So
plenty of time to lose.
Oh, Mike, your Jays are off to a pretty decent start, 6-4. I'm just looking at the standings real quick here.
Yeah, no, they are. It's a promising go at it.
Well, what happened to the Yankees? Now, on the first weekend, I heard talk, and this is all, of course, from the Yankees announcing team, that this team could be one of the greatest ever assembled. They could hit 300 home runs as a team. Blah blah blah, and here they are 5-5.
Well, Giancarlo Stanton, obviously the worst trade of all time.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's like the guy's a multiple MVP winner, 40 home runs. Like, relax.
He'll be fine. Yeah. And I think too, if he has 2 5 strikeout games within a couple days of each other in July, nobody's even talking about it. not even mentioning it, but because it happened early.
Well, it doesn't matter what sport it is. The first week is always
overreaction.
Filled with overreaction. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that this point in the sports calendar, if not, it's probably our favorite, right? As a whole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've people always want to say that it's October, because you got baseball, football's back, and hockey and basketball starting up. But, the start of hockey season, the start of basketball season, whatever. This is it. I mean, the Stanley Cup Playoffs, the best playoffs.
The greatest tournament in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
No, in the world, in all of sports. Sorry, not just hockey.
Easily in hockey.
Mm-hmm. No, as much as we hate on the NBA, eventually they produce a great series by, June. Or at least. The conference finals might be interesting, and then the finals would be interesting, right?
It is an inevitable march towards the Golden State Warriors winning the NBA championship in 5 games.
I have read, 5, 6 articles where people are going, the Rockets are good this year, and so-and-so is good this year. You just never know. And it's like, oh, for Pete's sake, you do know. We all know. So spare me. Let's talk about something that we get.
Kevin Durant is going to eat the rest of the league.
Yeah.
And
but
there's unbridled optimism for baseball, right?
Yeah. To me, I think that there's nothing better in sports than Stanley Cup hockey. I mean, it's the best, especially if you're in an elimination game or a game 7. It's just unbelievably intense. It's so cool. It's more fun if your team's not involved in it, I'll say that, because it can get a little tough on the old heart there if you...
Last year, all 6 games of that Maple Leafs Capitals series being, within 1 goal probably aged me.
Yeah.
So...
But it's awesome. It's just incredible. And that's what I mean. I think that if, it's probably our favorite time of the year because it's so good. And hopefully
it's amazing.
Live up to the extreme hype I just gave it. But McCarthy did this, I think, on Facebook or Twitter. Is this really the first time the Jackets have made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons? I thought this was their 3rd year in a row.
Yeah.
Nope.
This is only the fourth time?
It'd be the 4th time they've made it.
Fourth time because they've made it. They made it once years ago, but got swept.
Right, swept by Detroit, and then
they got swept by Detroit.
Then they had that great series with Pittsburgh a few years back where they lost.
And last year they got beat pretty good by Pittsburgh.
And Pittsburgh had no trouble with them last year. Yeah, and then this year they take on the Capitals.
Yep.
In round 1.
And
I think this is only the 3rd or only the 2nd year in a row where we've had all 3 of our teams in at the same time.
Yeah.
Because back when we had Andy, I mean, it was the Ducks and the Blackhawks, and maybe the Blue Jackets jumped in there during one of those years too. But
the Leafs were there that one year when they played Boston.
When they played Boston,
and we're going to be having that again, so that should be fun.
Yeah, honestly, when I'm just taking a step back and looking at all the matchups, these are some pretty good, watchable first round matchups across the board.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pissed off at how the East shook up because if, the fucking Bruins could manage to beat the goddamn Panthers, you useless piles of garbage, then I could get tickets to first round playoff hockey, Tampa, Toronto. But no. But fucking no, you can't beat the goddamn Florida Panther. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they couldn't beat the Panthers after they were eliminated already.
Yeah,
are you serious?
They have to play for.
The Bruins literally had 2 games against the Panthers in the final 3 days and lost to them twice.
Yeah, if they had won just one of them,
that happens.
Tampa, Toronto would have been a first round matchup.
You know what though?
No.
That kind of thing happens so often. I mean, in all sports. I don't know about basketball because just who gives a shit. But in the regular season, like in hockey, like with the Bruins and the Panthers, there, the Panthers nothing to play for. They just want to go home and get out the golf clubs. That's it. They're done. The Bruins just need to do this or that, and I don't know if it had anything to do with their playoff positioning or not. But you see teams that should not have any trouble putting away a team that's out, and they can't. And it happens in the NFL all the damn time. I remember one year the Cardinals knocked out I think maybe the Vikings out of the playoffs because the Vikings, all they had to do was win. The Cardinals were playing for absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It was like a last-second TV. Yeah, and it was if you actually find the YouTube video of that play superimposed with the Minnesota Vikings homer feed from like the local radio, it's hilarious. Like the guy's like yelling,
"Oh no!
Oh
no! Oh no!"
No!
It's just funny to me, but I don't know. Had the Bruins won, I mean, it was given Mike his Tampa-Toronto series, but would it have made a difference in the season?
Yeah.
You know, would it?
Oh yeah.
Bruins would have won the division and played the Devils, and the Lightning would have played the Maple Leafs.
So they basically just hacked it up then against a team they should have beaten twice. No problem.
They really the goddamn Panthers, who had been eliminated by that point already, so they had nothing to play for.
I would like to point out a few conspicuous absences on this bracket.
Mm-hmm.
There are no Chicago Blackhawks.
No.
There are no St. Louis Blues. So
correct.
That ends that problem for me this year.
Greg won't be tempted.
That solves that. There are no New York Rangers on this bracket.
No. There are only two original 6 teams in this playoff bracket, and they're playing each other.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of predicted the Rangers were headed down this path because they were old, and I think they were past the expiration date even last year.
And then at the trade deadline, they mailed it in. So they made a letter to their fans that said, "Hey, we're going to a rebuild." So
they basically traded away everyone to Boston or Tampa at the trade deadline.
The best part was, I think it was immediately after the game, or maybe it was before the game. Reporters were asking Alain Vigneault, the Rangers coach, like, "So do you think you're going to be back next year?" And he said, "Oh, absolutely. I think my coaching staff have done a great job here, and we've acquitted ourselves very well, and I'm ready to be committed to this team and move forward, and et cetera, et cetera." He was fired immediately after the final game of the season.
Aww.
So someone will get a brand new Alain Vigneault next season. So look out for him. But like I was saying, I think we've got a lot of great regional matchups, some good rivalries in the making or already in the making. In the East, you got your Flyers Penguins. The Penguins should beat the Flyers, but that's still always a nasty series. You never know.
Yeah, that's pretty good rivalry.
We're in for at least a week and a half of Bring Back the Vet, calling everyone in Pennsylvania west of Philadelphia a mindless hick. So that'll be fun.
All right.
You get 2 patriotic symbols in the Blue Jackets and Capitals.
Yeah. I think that I don't know how good my Jackets are. I don't think they're going to be. I want to say they're not going to be much of a threat to the Caps.
Look, Caps.
These are the Capitals we're talking about here, and it would be
the Capitals almost blew a series against a Toronto team that shouldn't have been there last year. All right, the Blue Jackets. This is a very winnable series for them.
That's what I think, and I think I even talked about it a few weeks ago. We said this was a potential matchup. I said, how hysterical would it be if my Blue Jackets knocked out the Capitals in the first round this year? And
honestly, I think there's only 2 series that I would say are pretty much locks.
Mm-hmm.
The other 6, I think either team could easily win.
So can I take a guess, Zach, at the locks? What you think?
Sure.
Anaheim is going to beat San Jose, right?
Well, no, I think that could go either way.
My first guess I'm going to say is Nashville, Colorado. Nashville's a lock, right?
I think so. Because Colorado, their starting goalie and number 1 defenseman were injured in the last couple weeks of the season. It's amazing that they got in there in the first place. It's been a great resurgent season for them, but I think that one goes pretty quick.
What about Winnipeg, Minnesota?
That's the other one.
Like, look, the bar is so low for Winnipeg. Just win 1 playoff game. That's the goal.
I really, really like Winnipeg. They're big. They're strong.
Oh, you think they can?
They play goal.
You like them to beat the Wild then?
I like them to do a lot of things.
That'd be great.
I mean, let's face it. It's Bruce Boudreau. Like, come on.
And the Wild are a team that they lost Ryan Suter, their number 1 defenseman, and a real kind of guy that stirs the drink there for them in the last week of the season.
Right.
So,
do we need to go over what happened last year where the St. Louis Blues beat the Minnesota Wild in the first round, only for all the Wild fans to tell us how the only reason why that happened was because the Wild didn't score as many goals, but they're really the better team.
That's just awful when that happens, though, when the only reason you lost was because you didn't score as many goals as the other guy. I mean, come on.
Hey, the other goalie was hot. Yeah.
That happens in the playoffs. Deal with it.
I mean, I have seen so many games over the years in all sports where it's just like, damn, the only thing that cost my team this game was they didn't score as much as the other team did, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. But this Jets Wild series, I think people don't realize how close Winnipeg is to Minneapolis, or St. Paul in this case. Mm-hmm. But I think this could be the start of a really good regional rivalry between these two teams. So that'd be fun. You get Knights Kings. It's a 5-hour drive. 45-minute plane flight.
Well, that's the other big storyline too. Now we get to see, are the Vegas Golden Knights legit? Are they? They've had the best expansion season of all time already.
Now, the thing that I'm curious about though is how much of an LA Kings home atmosphere will be in Las Vegas.
I guarantee it'll be pretty strong.
You think?
I think no matter who Vegas was going to play, whether it was the Kings, Ducks, or Sharks, I think there's going to be a strong contingent. Yeah, because think about it. Before Vegas came into the league, Vegas was part of the Fox Sports West coverage area.
Right.
So they got Kings games and Ducks games forever. So you had a lot of people that if they were going to be hockey fans, those were the teams that they'd root for. And like I've told you guys plenty of times this season, I've noticed some tendencies of the Knights fans are akin to Kings fans, because I think that the Knights, there's a lot of Knights fans that were Kings fans up until the Knights got, created. So I think this is going to be a pretty lively series in terms of the stands, in terms of the fans going at each other. And you get the fun kind of thing of the Knight and the King, the actual mascots,
Yeah. It's a literal chess match. Get it?
Yeah. I've told you guys this before, but I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop on Vegas, and I think this is it. I like the Kings to beat them kind of easily.
Should we go through the brackets then?
Let's just where do we want to begin? We want to start out east, out west? What do we want to do?
Yeah, let's go with the east. We'll go with the number one seed in the east, the Tampa Bay Lightnings. They will host the New Jersey Devils in the Brian Boyle Cup. The Lightning, easily one of the best teams all season. I think at the midpoint, they were everyone's Stanley Cup pick. I think there were a lot of teams Stanley Cup pick before the season. But they kind of struggled down the stretch. Vasilevsky maybe was used a little too much. He's been a backup for the majority of his career up until the last couple of years. He saw more work than he ever had this year. And so they kind of struggled down the stretch, but see if they get new life in the playoffs. The Devils were one of the great comeback stories of the year. They were awful a year ago, but they a new coach, some new uniforms. They kind of pulled themselves together, and Taylor Hall had an incredible season. I think he might be the Hart Trophy winner as MVP. He was just so good for them down the stretch, basically dragging them into the playoffs. So that's an interesting series, Tampa versus the Devils, that begins on Thursday.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be a shocker. Devils in 6. And I say that having gone to my fair share of Lightning games, and one of them is, you're exactly right, Zach. Vasilevsky has been weak down the stretch.
They rode him pretty hard all season.
They rode him pretty hard. They have a very competent backup in Domingue that they could have played a few more games here and there, but they didn't. And so, who knows how? Maybe he'll get just enough rest to be back in fighting form. But it's always risky considering how run down he's looked at times. But the second reason why I'm picking the Devils is because the Devils have swept the Lightning this year, or at least they have in all the home games in Tampa. So, and this is a team, and I was at one of them where I was at one of these games where the Devils just seemed to handle this team very well. Yes, Tampa is an amazing team with a stacked roster top to bottom, but I think their weaknesses are, one, they have a good goalie who is being kind of written too hard, and two, I don't think John Cooper is a particularly good coach who I think he's skated by on having a stacked team all of these years. I don't think I don't think John Cooper,
Yeah.
He was terrible at Ohio State. I know that.
But the point, my point is, I think Cooper's a bit overrated in terms of coaching ability. I think they have some goaltending issues, and this is a team in the Devils that has just proven that they can hang with the Lightning, and not only can they hang with the Lightning, but they can, they know how to beat the Lightning. They've proven it.
True. But I think counterpoint to all that for the Devils is their weakness might be in goal too. Down the stretch, it wasn't Corey Schneider that was helping them out in net. It was Keith Kincaid, their backup. They kept whenever they put Schneider out there, he just couldn't handle it for whatever reason. And Kincaid came in and played really well down the stretch. But again, he's the backup goalie. What happens if he turns into a pumpkin here in the series? Then they have to go back to Schneider, and then you're flip-flopping goalies, and that's never a good thing to do. I think that might be a drawback. And then again, I think the key for the Devils is still going to be Taylor Hall, because he has carried them down the stretch here offensively. He might have to do it again in this series, especially if Tampa can get its firepower going, and if you have Kucherov and Stamkos and Hedman all working for Tampa, and you just have Taylor Hall trying to do it all on the other side. I think Tampa might be able to outshoot them at the end of the day. I would go Lightning in 6, but I think the Devils will give them a harder time than maybe the top seed deserves. But I still think Tampa has the guns to outrun them.
I'm just going to say, for what little I know, just gut instinct, and that I think a Devils upset would be cool, but I just think that the Lightning probably, just like you said, Zach, they got a little more offensive firepower maybe. And that could be the difference. But with the goalie thing with Vasilevsky, you just don't know. So I'm still going to go. I'm taking Tampa I'm going to go 5.
Okay.
I think the Lightning, I think we might be underestimating them a little bit. So I'm going to take the Lightning in 5 in that one.
The other game there, or the other series there in the Atlantic is a grudge match for you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't remember. The last time that the Bruins and Maple Leafs played each other in the playoffs, we were on the air recording a podcast as the Maple Leafs held a 3-1 lead in the final 5 minutes of the game.
Can I just step in and say that of all the sports I've ever watched in my life, that might have been the worst gut punch I've ever seen. Just going to say.
And, the Bruins ended up tying it in the final minute of the game, winning in overtime and eliminating the Leafs there in Game 7 when the Leafs just got back in the playoffs. Phil Kessel was having a fun time. Didn't play out so well. So the question is,
and kudos to our friend Mike for coming on the air after that, because it was just brutal. I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to make you relive it, Mike, but it was. I think the speed in which it happened was what was the worst part about watching. It was like, oh my God, it happened so fast. And you just went, I didn't just see that. But anyway, go ahead.
The Leafs, they were pretty strong, all season. They've been kind of locked into that 3rd seed for a very long time. But they're basically the same team from last year, plus an overpaid Patrick Marleau.
Who has, by the way, not been a pumpkin. He's contributed.
Yeah, he's still getting paid $18 million.
And they can afford it.
Frederik Andersen's been strong in net. The young guns continue to lead the Leafs up front. They've got older, more experience, and maybe better. Austin Matthews is great. And, I don't think there's really anything to hate about this Leafs team unless you really just don't like Mike Babcock or Lou Lamoriello for whatever reason. On the other side, the Bruins, they were, like we said, they were fighting with the Lightning up until the final extra day of the season that they had to play because of a snow out earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. And they dropped it. But this was a Bruins team that going into the year, I think I had them out of the playoffs. I think a lot of people did. they were kind of down on what the Bruins were doing. It looked like the old boys club gone wrong. But around the new year, they really found themselves. Tuukka Rask was great. Brad Marchand was scoring goals. Patrick Bergeron doing what he does. Charlie McAvoy, on defense as a young gun, helping them. They got a lot of young guys that came in and really infused this Bruins team to make them one of the stronger teams in the league, from the midpoint onwards. And I want to say they're dangerous, but I still see the Bruins that I saw at the beginning of the year to me. I can't shake my initial impressions of this roster, and I still find it hard to believe that they were as good as they ended up being. For me, I just like this Maple Leafs team a whole hell of a lot. And I think I put the Leafs in 6 because I just don't believe in the Bruins. The Bruins have proven themselves to be pretty good, but I just don't know why particularly, I guess.
This is the fact that Bruins fans seem bummed over how the season ended. Bruins fans all seem like they would have rather played New Jersey than Toronto, which makes me feel good to a degree. It's because, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit shell-shocked, but I would just rather not play the Bruins again. It's interesting. I don't particularly think they got all that better at the trade deadline. I think Rick Nash's best days are behind him. So I don't think he's going to be too much of a boon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just nervous every time the Leafs have to play the Bruins. But all of that said, this has been one hell of a season. This team, the Maple Leafs, like Zach has said, they've kind of been locked into that third playoff spot, but they've played consistently well all season. They've had their skids here and there, but they've always managed to right the ship, and they've always managed to string together impressive runs. And so I think what we're seeing here is a young team that's sort of finding itself, and I'm going to take the leap of faith and say they managed to at least get out of the first round. They will beat Boston probably in 7 games to give me a heart attack.
I like this Leafs team a lot. I think that they're young and they're good, and to me that's good enough. I think they take the Bruins out in 6.
Yeah, and I think it can't be understated the experience that they gained last year too in the playoffs.
Right.
Against the Caps, they really give them a game of it, and I think
that's what I mean. They played really tough last year. The new group, and they've just got a year of experience under their belt. They're good. They're young, and I like that. I like the Leafs in 6 on this one. So, Mike, I don't think you're going to have a heart attack. I think you'll be fine.
I will say I am hoping for one thing above all else over the series. I want to see the return of Dartman. Come on,
yeah, Dart guy.
Come on, Dart guy. Don't leave us. Come back to us.
My advice would be to start getting ready to buy your second round playoff tickets, because I think that's where you're going to get to go.
Oh God. Oh God. No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, if our picks go right, that's what'll happen.
Hey, you know what? I still could end up getting that Leafs Lightning
Right.
playoff series, but with my luck, it'll probably end up being Leafs Devils, and then that'll be fun.
Oh, the Lou Lamoriello Cup.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
That should be a legitimate thing. Yeah, I like the Leafs. I think
no alternate jerseys will be allowed to be worn by either team over the course of the Lou Lamoriello Cup.
And the Devils will have to wear their jerseys from last year.
Yeah. Lou Lamoriello doesn't like that they changed. Doesn't matter if he's not the GM. They have to go back.
And keep in mind that everything I'm talking about here is just purely like gut instinct and just hunches and stuff. But I think this Leafs team could make a long run in this thing. I just got a good feeling about it.
They've got an interesting road, because they've got if they can get back past Boston, they've got to play either Tampa or New Jersey. Tampa, of course, being the best team in the East, so that's kind of a meat grinder where, you get past the second best team in the East. Well, congratulations. Now you have to play the first best team in the East, or the Devils who in terms of Leafs playoff heartbreak, there are some demons to exercise with the Devils as well. So either way,
maybe that's the point.
Let me ask this.
You got to go through each round and you're exercising another demon out of their playoff past.
That's what the Cavs did when they won the championship in whatever year it was, that you could watch it as it was happening. But anyway, Mike, let me ask a question here about the league in general.
Yeah.
Like, we've known years like, okay, the Blackhawks, that's the team to beat. It was pretty clear that they were the best team. Do we have that this year? Is there like a team that's just a cut above everybody else?
I would say in the East, it's clearly the Lightning.
Okay.
I mean,
it's the Lightning and it's the Preds.
It's the Lightning and the Preds. The Lightning.
And then you still have the Penguins haven't been up to snuff, but they're still the back-to-back champs, so you got to give them a due.
And I'd say the Lightning and the Preds, and then probably outside of that, probably Pittsburgh and Winnipeg as sort of serious contenders beyond that.
Okay.
I would say like the Lightning, despite having struggled through the past, like the last kind of portion of the season, they're still a stacked roster, and I've seen this team in person come back from 2-3 goal deficits in the third period like it was nothing. So like this team's got talent. This team's got raw talent, and so it's going to be hard to put the Lightning away unless they just absolutely fall apart.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So that's the Atlantic Division matchups. In the Metro Division,
the Met.
The Capitals are your division winners. We know the Capitals. We've been with the Capitals. We know the Capitals.
We've been on many a journey with the Capitals.
They're really no different than the Capitals of any other time previous. The only difference maybe is that they're waffling on a goaltender. Braden Holtby was struggling a little down the stretch. Philip Grubauer played really well as their backup. But otherwise...
So you're saying the only difference between this Capitals team and other Capitals teams is actually a negative in that they don't know who their starting goaltender is?
Well, their starting goalie is still going to be Braden Holtby, but I would say that they're not going to be hesitant about maybe putting their backup goalie in if they feel they have to. It's not going to be like a desperation thing. They feel that they could win with them. It's hard to even talk about the Capitals at this point because seriously,
what are you going to say?
We've said it all before.
Right.
They won the division again. They were, what do you want? They continue to be who they are.
It doesn't fucking matter that they won the division. All right, it does. It's meaningless at this point.
It always comes down to the same question with them: is this the year they get over the hump? That's it. I mean, isn't that basically it?
Look. 2 years ago, people said this is finally do or die for the Capitals. Last year, people said it's finally do or die for the Capitals. This year, people are saying, well, now that no one's picking them, they're going to win. No, we've been saying that.
We've already done the no one's picking them.
I think exactly. I think we're at the point of, well, we're not picking them and they're not going to do it. And they go up against the Blue Jackets, who, for the first time in their history, back-to-back playoff entries. Congratulations, Columbus. This has been a fun team. They were pretty strong in the beginning. They had another long winning streak at a certain point during the year. Again, one of those teams that I don't really have any negatives about them besides John Tortorella, who's always
John Tortorella. Just John Tortorella.
I think the Blue Jackets' success, despite, what the rest of their players, whether it's Seth Jones or Foligno or Panarin, who came over and has done well, that's, hey, Chicago, how'd that Brandon Saad trade work out? I think the big key for Columbus is, does Bobrovsky play like playoff Bobrovsky again? He's
had a pretty good season so far.
He's had a good season, but when he's had his playoff opportunities, he's kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah, I don't want to say that he's been terrible, because he wasn't. But
he hasn't come up with the key save at the key time.
Yeah, he got a little, I don't even think inconsistent's the right word. He got it seemed like he had the yips at times. Not always, but at the worst possible time. Like he would, if you needed him to play 100%, I was like he was playing at 85. Like he could never find that gear he needed to really become like hot goalie in the playoffs. He was never terrible, but boy, I was never really confident with him either.
So I'm going to say in this series, like I said earlier, this is basically, I saw this Capitals team, almost lose in the first round to a Maple Leafs team that probably shouldn't have even been there last year. And that Leafs team took them to 6 in all one-goal games, many of them in overtime. So I definitely think this is a series that the Columbus Blue Jackets can win. I think the Blue Jackets I think the Blue Jackets are a much better team than this year than Toronto was last year. I think the Blue Jackets this year have proven that they can get the job done. And look, I'm not saying it's a certainty that Washington will lose because, they're always good, for probably a second round appearance before losing. But I don't see – it wouldn't shock me if Columbus bested them. And so because of that, I'm going to put my faith in Bobrovsky. I think you can start kind of saying he's a goalie with playoff issues if he doesn't play up to snuff. But I'm going to say that he overcomes those demons and say Blue Jackets in 7.
Wow.
I'm going to go Caps in 6. I like the Blue Jackets. I just think the Capitals are better.
Here's my question with the Blue Jackets. Okay, I know that Bobrovsky. I mean, if he gets hot, sure, why not? But what's their offense like with the Jackets?
It's not bad.
Okay,
it's consistent.
Because that's like what the concern was like the first couple of times. It was like like with Pittsburgh, you just flat-footed against each other. They just weren't going to be able to score as much as Pittsburgh did, and that was clearly a problem. But oh man, yeah. I think it would be hysterical if my Jackets knocked out the Caps in the first round. I would love to see it happen, but
I mean, it's going to depend. At what point does Ovechkin's fuckets kick in? Because that's usually
that's another question I have too. I mean, how you're the Capitals at this point, right? I mean, it's basically finals or anything short of that is just a complete and utter waste of time. So at what point does oh my God, we've got to get through this first round series? I mean, how far down the road are they looking already?
Honestly, I don't even know if they're thinking like that. Because when I look at all these series, I think this is the one that has the least amount of juice going into it. Because the Blue Jackets fans and the Blue Jackets are just happy that they're not playing the Penguins again.
Yes.
As far as I can tell. And the Capitals are kind of like, well, we're here again. Oh, it's the Blue Jackets? Okay. So I don't think either team really has a thought about the other one. And ultimately, I don't even know if I could say one team is clearly better than the other one. I'm going with the Caps just simply based on they can.
Well, no, my reasoning is that if the Capitals, I mean, if this has become a slog for them, they could be ripe for the picking in the first round because it's just like, okay, it's a step we have to get past.
Yeah.
They're not coming into it like the Jackets, like, hey, second year in a row, we can get something done this year. Capitals are like, this is when we've got to win so that we can move on to take on the winner of Philly-Pittsburgh, and then we've got to do this and we've got to do that. This is just one step along the way, which can work either way, or either like they come out, they just give a very workmanlike dismantling of the Blue Jackets and go, okay, that's done, what's next? Or they're looking too far down the road and they're right for the picking, and I don't know. I would love to pick the Jackets in this, but I think the Capitals make quick work of them. I'm taking Washington in 5.
I also think that maybe if there's one thing that might be an X factor is Ovechkin. I think at this point in his career, and I think after seeing all of his Olympic athletes from Russia's win their gold medal, that doesn't count. Maybe he might have that extra motivation, and I think we like when you say when do the fuckets come in for Nashville or for Ovechkin, I should say.
Yeah.
Nashville. I almost think it's the other way around. Instead of just a fuck it, let's just go home. I think it's a fuck it, let's just do this. Let's go.
That's what I mean.
As hard as we can.
Right. Like I said, is it going to be like a fired up, spitting nails coming out of the out of the gate watching the Capitals team? No, but it could be a very focused, workman-like, do our jobs, get the job done type of series where they just dispense the Blue Jackets no trouble. And that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Caps in 5. Believe me, I want my Jackets to win, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I got Caps in 6.
Mike, what did you say? Jackets in 7?
You said Jackets, yeah.
I said Jackets in 7, yes.
Well, bless you, young man. I appreciate your optimism.
And then the other side, Philly, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh back-to-back Stanley Cup champs. Again, we know what the Penguins are. Yes, they lost a little bit, as Cup teams tend to do, especially back-to-back Cup teams over time. You can't afford to keep all that together. They had some struggles early in the year. It was kind of iffy for a bit, for about half the season, if the Penguins really had it anymore. They put it together. They ended up being the number 2 seed in the Metro when it was all said and done. Crosby had an okay year. Malkin had a better year. Kessel had a great year. Matt Murray eventually found his footing late in the year, and he looks fine. The Penguins are going to be okay. And then they play a Philly team that, again, had a surge early in the season. The Metro was unbeatable early on in the year. And then they kind of fell back to earth. They fell out of the playoffs for a minute, but then they fought towards the end and got in on the last couple days. Claude Giroux had a great season. He's a Hart Trophy candidate. There's like 12 Hart Trophy candidates this year. It's kind of ridiculous. He had a 100-point year. Travis Konechny had a great year. Shane Gostisbehere had a great year on defense. And I don't know. I think my issue here with the series, like, yes, their playoff history would suggest that it'll be a great long series. My problem is I think Philly almost might be a team that's happy to be around.
Yeah.
And maybe just not good enough to stand up to what the Pens have.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts too. Like, yeah, Philly had a bit of a letdown year. I mean, Pittsburgh had a bit of a letdown year, but they're still the back-to-back champs. They've still got Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin, Phil Kessel, Matt Murray's playing back up to form. Like, I don't see how this is going. I don't see how Philly can come out of this. I just don't.
I'm with you guys on that. I think that they're the Penguins, and I mean that, firepower you just reeled off there. I'm going, yeah. I mean, I can't root for the Flyers because I just can't, even though just a Rangers fan thing and all that. But I've got a little bit of Penguins fatigue too. But I got to go with the Pens in this. I think they, what do you think? 5, 6 at the best.
I think I got Pens in 6.
I'm going to go Pens in 5. I don't think it'll.
Yeah, I think 5 too. I mean, I wouldn't even be that shocked if it were a sweep, but I think 5.
Le West. We could start with the President's Trophy winners.
Well, we were before we started recording, we were talking about the President's Trophy and whether to raise the banner, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to say, with the luck that the President's Trophy winners have in the playoffs, I don't know if I draw any attention to that damn thing.
My argument is that, if it wasn't in every other league where you're just first in the league after the regular season and there's no trophy given, you're not going to put up a banner for regular season champions because that just makes you look like a dummy.
Mm-hmm.
But in the NHL, because there's an actual trophy associated with it, I'm a little bit more okay with it because you actually were awarded a thing. But yeah, if you don't end up winning anything else, even just making the Cup final, it kind of pointless.
Not even that. It's just the fact that they don't have the best of luck. I mean, it's not like a total.
But that's a numbers game.
It's not a total. Every year the President's Trophy winner doesn't go anywhere, but it happens enough where I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Kind of like not touching the conference championship trophy. I'd just be like, we're not going to, after we win the Cup, then we'll talk about the President's Trophy. But until then, just forget about it. Anyway.
Given the track record, I'd avoid that thing. Just like,
right.
I'd intentionally tank a game or two just to not get it.
Well, the thing that happened this year too, sometimes they don't clinch early enough to actually be awarded it. But the Predators clinched it early enough to where the trophy was actually presented to them in their season finale in Nashville. And they didn't touch it or anything. They didn't like parade it around, but somebody came out on the ice and said, "Here, look at the President's Trophy." And it's like, okay.
Was it Gary Bettman, or did he send one of his?
No, it was Bill Daly, I think.
Oh, okay. So he sent the Chief putty. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Central Division, the Nashville Predators, your President's Trophy winners, your Central Division champions, your Western Conference champions from a year ago, lost to the Penguins in the final. They took what the momentum they had at the end of last year and ran with it. Pretty much been the best team in the West from start to finish. They were behind Vegas for a minute, but Vegas kind of cooled off at the end there. The only big change for them, I guess, is that midway through the season they got Kyle Turris from Ottawa in a 3-way trade with the Avalanche, where the Avalanche sent Matt Duchene to Ottawa. Matt Duchene at the time said, I want to play playoff hockey. Not playing playoff hockey, the two teams that were involved in the trade are playing each other in this matchup. So you have the Preds, PK Subban, Pekka Rinne, Roman Josi, Ryan Johansson, Philip Forsberg, Kyle Turris. They're a well-rounded unit with not a lot of holes and a playoff experience to boot. Going up against the Avalanche, who had 49 points last season.
Yeah, they were horrible.
They made the playoffs with a 47-point improvement. Nate McKinnon was, again, one of many Hart Trophy candidates. He dragged this team for a good majority of the season. He was great. The Avs have just been okay all around, but he's been spectacular. They lost their starting goalie, Semyon Varlamov, and their number one defenseman, Eric Johnson, at the end of the season. So I think the Avs might just be in a position of, we're just really happy to be here.
After
and the Preds are in the position of the buzzsaw.
Right. I mean, they from 49 points last year to 95 this year. Mm-hmm. I think if they're just happy to be there, I'm okay with that, because that's a hell of a turnaround. Because, I mean, you guys are talking like they were one of the worst teams ever last year.
Well, they were.
Record-wise, they were one of the worst teams in the modern era. Correct.
So just out of curiosity, what happened that they turned it around to basically, I mean, they went from one extreme to the other, essentially.
The offense picked up, really.
I guess.
Varlamov was decent in that, and Nate McKinnon was awesome. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And there were a lot of bad teams in the West to kind of feed off of below them. I mean, honestly, the teams like the Avalanche got helped by the Stars having a subpar season, the Oilers having a subpar season, the Flames having a subpar season, and somebody has to win the games, right?
Yeah.
And if those other teams don't improve or get worse, then some team is going to be the benefit of that, and I think that team just happens to be the Colorado Avalanche, who got a singular great performance out of Nate McKinnon, and like I said, dragged into the playoffs. And that's why when we said, when we started talking about this is one of those that is going to be an easy series. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a sweep, but I'm not going to call a sweep. I'd say Preds in 5 just to be safe.
Yeah, they have to win one just because of the excitement of being there and stuff. They'll win like their first home game, and that'll be it. So I'm with you, Preds in 5.
I'm going to say Preds in 4. Sweet.
Yeah.
Not that I wish no success for Nashville. They have quickly become one of my least favorite entities on the planet. But yeah, I don't see a way that unless they just implode, because again, Colorado's going with a backup goalie. Everything else is just kind of okay, and then they have some good talent up top. But besides that, it's kind of like it's a good question that you ask, Greg. How the hell did they get such a nearly double their output from a year ago? But
right.
Here they are. So yeah, I think we're all right saying Preds easily. The other series in the Central is the Winnipeg Jets, another team with an incredible turnaround this season. Going into the year, they gave extensions to their GM and general manager. And I remember at the time saying, why? Neither of these guys have done anything. This is a franchise that still has yet to win a playoff game, even from their time in Atlanta. They'd only been twice. Once as the Thrashers, once as the Jets, swept both times. If anything, this was a team that had a lot of expectation over the last few years, but never was able to capitalize on it in any significant way. And they finally did this year. Connor Hellebuyck took over in net about a quarter of the way through the season, and he's been nothing but lights out. This is a team that's big. They're fast. They're strong. They score. They defend. They play as a unit. They have some top-notch forwards up top with Blake Wheeler, who had a great year. Mark Scheifele's always good. Defensively, they were great. Tyler Myers, Dustin Byfuglien were holding it down on D. This is a big, strong playoff hockey type unit that I really, really like in Winnipeg, and I think they're at the very least going to win their first playoff game in Jets 2.0 history. But I would peg them for a series win over the Minnesota Wild, who, again, are kind of a team that we know who they are. The only surprising thing was a resurgent year by Eric Staal, who scored 40 goals. Most people, especially after he left the Rangers, had Eric Staal kind of pegged for dead. Like he was on his way out of the league. But a resurgent year. Everything else has been kind of the same. Your forwards are your forwards, your Mika Koivus, your Zach Parises, Jason Zucker, Niederreiter. Defensively, same kind of solid group, Devin Dubnyk in net. But again, Ryan Suter out for the rest of the season for the Wild, who are good, but they also have playoff yip master himself, Bruce Boudreau, behind the bench still. Minnesota's fine. They're a fine team. I just think Winnipeg is solid, like just top to bottom, extremely solid.
Look,
and a really good group.
Look. The Winnipeg Jets are on the quest to win one playoff game, and therefore exercise demons. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they will get their one playoff game, maybe even two. But no, I think this is Bruce Boudreau hockey. And you combine Bruce Boudreau playoff hockey with just the Minnesota Wild's just entire tenure of existence, and you get early playoff exits as a result. I think this Winnipeg team is too good. I'm not going to say it's a sure thing. I think Minnesota is still a talented team. They could definitely beat the Jets, but I'm going to say the Jets, I think, are – player for player, pound for pound, the better organization. They are going to win in 6, I think. But rest assured, Minnesota Wild fans, even though the Jets will win more games and score more goals and will ultimately move on, the Wild will still be the better team. So you can rest assured.
I just want to point out that there is literally just one thing stopping this Minnesota Wild team. And that will be not scoring as many goals as the Winnipeg Jets, which is exactly what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to say that in that rare stat, the one that you just don't talk about that much, but is very important in the grand scheme of things, the Jets will score more goals than the Wild in each game and win the series in – I'll give the Wild the benefit of the doubt and say they might go 6 in this. So I'll take the Jets in 6. Because the Wild will put together 2 games where they will take that stat and score more goals than the Jets, but they won't do it enough times.
I got Winnipeg in 5 or 6. In the thread, I put 6, but I could go with 5. I just think they're good. I think they're really, really solid. Every time the Ducks played the Jets this year, they were the best team I saw, even including when the Ducks would play Nashville. And whenever they did play Nashville, who they most likely will lock up with in the second round, those were battles. Those were some great hockey games. But I really like Winnipeg, and yeah, I like the Jets.
All right.
In the Pacific, we have one of the most unlikely things. The division winner is the expansion, Vegas Golden Knights.
Unbelievable. Greatest expansion season of all time. It's simply that.
Again, this is a group of second liners, cast-offs, every team's sixth best player, that sort of idea that came together. Gerard Gallant, who's the shoe-in for Coach of the Year, got this group of second fiddles to play together as a unit.
Well, and don't forget, too, that they were given one of the most liberal expansion draft deals, too, of all time.
Sure, but even on paper, going into the year, with the guys that they had put together, this wasn't a group that looked like it was primed for any sort of success. I think the most optimistic view of them were they would be fighting for a playoff spot towards the end of the year. That was the most optimistic view, is maybe they could squeak in as a 7 or an 8. That would be amazing if they could even do that. They were the best team in the West for a while. They got the best record in the league at one point. Now, to come down the other side of that, they have been kind of just okay, down the middle towards the end of the season. They weren't at that hot pace. They do have guys that had, all their guys, you could say, had breakout seasons, but you had a guy like William Karlsson who scored 40 goals. Marc-Andre Fleury, when he came back from his early injury, was pretty good in net for them. Defensively, I think defense is kind of the weakness on this team. You can get away with a bunch of second line forwards, but when you get, a bunch of number 4 defensemen, number 5 defensemen,
right,
that's when it's kind of iffy. But they've been able to play really well as a unit throughout the course of the year. But I think when you have to go against a team for a 7-game series, your weaknesses are going to show. And I think that's what they might get in a battle-tested team like the LA Kings, who, again, they not their best year, but a great year from Andrei Kopitar, who, again, is a Hart Trophy candidate. He had, I think, his first or second best offensive season in his career. Dustin Brown, of all friggin' people, had a resurging year goal scoring. He had
a hat trick.
He scored 30 goals, I think. He had a hat
trick recently. Come on now, let's give Dustin Brown his credit.
Never. They're fine. When it comes to the Kings teams that squeak in the playoffs and could be trying for a long playoff run, I don't think this is one of them. Like, they're good, they're fine, but I just don't have that extra belief in them that you might have in years past. Jonathan Quick is still Jonathan Quick. He could steal an entire series. He could be flopping all over the place and get scored on 5 times in a game. You don't really know sometimes. Defensively, they're still strong. Drew Doughty and leading that group. They're a strong unit top to bottom. And I don't know. You got the Golden Knights.
Well, so what do you think?
I think I got the Kings in 5. I've said this for a few weeks now that I think Vegas is going to hit the wall here in the first round. You can only have things go your way every single time so often. And, I mean, for a team that lives in Vegas, they should know that. All season they had their fans and their Twitter accounts were obnoxious with the house always wins idea because they had this great record at home. But
well, the house always does win, and I think in this case, that's the house we're talking about is not the house they're talking about.
Yes,
the odds will catch up with you eventually.
Indeed, and I think that's what's going to happen. I just when you have to lock up with a team for 7 straight games, it's something to really deal with. Sure. And of the teams that they played this season, the Kings actually locked up with them pretty well every single time. I think they split the series 2-2 overall, but the Kings won the final 2 games of the season. And again, I just think Vegas wasn't playing well enough down the stretch. Marc-Andre Fleury has had his playoff bugaboos in the past.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to bring up because we mentioned earlier that Bobrovsky, he's maybe one bad series away from getting that Marc-Andre Fleury reputation. And I didn't want to say that name until we got here, but we are here now, and everyone has been saying, and God damn it, this is specifically aimed at you, Dad, who's been asking me seemingly every week since the season started, wow, do you think the Penguins were stupid for giving up Marc-Andre Fleury? No, they were not. Because Marc-Andre Fleury is near the end of his career. He's got probably maybe 3 years left at most before the wheels just fall off. And aside from all of that, the dude got a reputation as a choker in the playoffs for a reason. That wasn't unfairly thrust upon him. And so combine that with everything Zach said, I'm not going to say 5. I think – okay, because I haven't really gotten into detail quite yet about how I think series are going to break down. I've just kind of said such and such team in however many games. I think this is going to be Kings in 6, and I think you're going to see Vegas going toe-to-toe, maybe even with a 1-0 or a 2-1 lead early on before the Kings kind of figure them out and finish them off with relative ease. So, 6 games with Vegas getting less impressive as it goes on. Alternatively, what I could hope for would be another reverse sweep where the Kings just reverse sweep the Knights. That would be fantastic too.
I read an article about the Knights in Sports Illustrated a couple weeks back, and this team is filled with nobody believes in us players, which can be of a benefit at times and can carry you a long way. I have more faith in these guys than you guys do. I think they can get past this series, but I think that's where it stops. But I think that they've got that nobody believes in us thing going on pretty strong at this point. But Marc-Andre Fleury, if he plays well, they can win the series. If he doesn't, well, we know what's going to happen. But I'm going to go out on a limb and take the Knights in this one. I think it's going to be a tough series. I'm going to take the Knights in. Boy, I don't like them winning the 7th game, though, if they get that far. But I'll say 7.
See, the nobody believes in us thing is definitely what's something that's carried them all season. The Island of Misfit Toys, every single night you have a guy like, well, hey, which one of us got kicked off this team? Let's go win it for
right.
Simsy over there. Yeah, we're gonna do it. And they don't have any expectations to start off the year. Nobody believes in you. You're now a division winner. You were the best team in the league at certain points of the year. Now you all of a sudden have expectations.
Right.
And I don't know if this is a group that can live up to those expectations, because when you do break it down, again, maybe we're making the same mistake we did at the beginning of the year, where it's like, okay, we got through the season, but come on, let's look at the roster again. Look at these guys. Oh my gosh. But I think it is a thing where, like, you had a lot of these guys that had career years, out of this world career years. Can they keep up that sort of pace in the playoffs? I just don't. When you're a group that hasn't proven it otherwise, I'm still going to be doubtful of you. And I just think, on an outside thing that has nothing to do with the actual players on the ice or anything like that, this is a group of fans that have gotten real uppity real quick and need some comeuppance. This is a group of people that, the house always wins. We deserve this. We fought so hard for it. No, this isn't how it works. The NHL, you will come to find very quickly, is a land of pain and misery. No one is happy. No one has fun. This isn't going to be what you think it's going to be, in the words of Luke Skywalker.
I think I think that for one series,
this is going to turn out how you think.
Mm-hmm. For one series, I think they can gear up the nobody believes in us thing one more time, because now, like you said, they've got expectations now, and a lot of people are probably saying what you're saying, Zach, what you're saying, Mike, that these guys, despite everything behind them, now it's playoff time, now it's a 7-game grind, and they can't do it now. So for one more time, they can crank it up. Do I think they can, run it all the way through? No. I think they get it done one more time in a very tough series. And like I said, I'm not crazy about, I'll put it this way. If it goes to a 7th game, the Kings will win it. But I think the Knights can win it in 6, but if it goes 7, it's the Kings all the way. So I'm going to kind of qualify my prediction with the Knights will win this, but they have to do it in 6. If it goes to 7, they're not winning. Simple
I just think it'll be hilarious when all these Knights fans taking the quote-unquote the Knights vow to make sure that no one will invade our arena in these playoffs. When in Game 1, when half the arena is LA Kings fans, and the Kings score those first 2 goals and start going nuts, and they start realizing how much pain and suffering the Stanley Cup playoffs can be, that they're not going to think it's that fun anymore.
Like I said, the Stanley Cup playoffs are awesome as long as your team isn't involved. Then they're really great. But otherwise, it's pain and misery all the way. And that's what it's going to be with the Caps and the Jackets. It's going to be like, oh, my God.
Yeah, live and die on every face-off, every shot, every goal.
Yeah, and
it's why it's the best. But when you're in it, it's
misery. It's absolute misery. I remember that first the series against Pittsburgh a few years ago, especially because the Pens got up early. It was like one of those games where the Jackets came back and really cool stuff. But they get up like 2 goals, and you're like, oh my God, that's it. We can't hang with these guys, blah, blah, blah. And then they tie it up, and then it's like, you're on the edge of your seat for the overtime, and screw it. It's horrible. It's just not any fun. Sorry. So yeah, Vegas fans, get ready for some of that. Because even as a Blue Jackets fan, I have lived the misery of it. Believe me.
It is great, though.
It's awesome. It's wonderful, as long as your team's not in it.
Anyway. The final series we have is Ducks, Sharks. The Ducks, the number 2 seed in the Pacific. Fun fact here. Going into the final 5 games of the season, the Sharks had a 7-point lead and the tiebreaker on the Ducks with 5 games to play. The Ducks are now the 2nd seed and hosting Game 1 on Thursday.
Well, yeah.
So the Sharks kind of got their little coughing fit out of the way a little early in the season.
I think it's a sign of things to come.
The Ducks are a team that I'm frankly amazed that they were able to get up into the number 2 seed, that they were able to finish just 8 points behind the division leader. The amount of injuries this team sustained in the early parts of the season, in training camp, in the summer, the surgeries and all that. Even when they finally got everybody healthy, it seemed like they would get everybody together for one game and then somebody went down and that guy would come back and then somebody would get hurt. It was just this as a Ducks fan, this was a hard, frustrating season from start to finish. However, they found something towards the end of the later half of the season. John Gibson was fantastic in net. He got injured late in the last week, but he was in practice today, and it sounds like he's going to start Game 1 on Thursday. And even if he doesn't, Ryan Miller has been a fantastic backup for them. So I'm confident in his ability to at least win a couple games in a first-round series. But if the Ducks do end up doing anything of significance, it will be Gibson and net. Ryan Getzlaf in the second half of the year, once he finally got completely healthy, was playing some of the best hockey I've ever seen Ryan Getzlaf play, dominating games.
Oh, I know. I picked him up off waivers in our fantasy league, and I couldn't be happier about it.
He was great. Ricard Raquel exploded to be one of the top scorer on this team throughout the year. Andre Kasha had a breakout season. They got Adam Henrique in a trade. The defense, once Kevin Bieksa went down with an injury, the defense got better and solidified. They were
viewing theory.
Well, Kevin Bieksa is garbage. And there's reports coming out of practice today that, well, if he keeps progressing, he could be ready for Game 1. And all the Ducks fans are saying, no, he's not, Randy. He's not better. Because we know that Randy Carlyle loves himself some gritty veterans, and he'll be back in the lineup when he's ready, because pain and misery.
Truculence is the word.
So, this Ducks team has a lot of guts. Their issues, though, can be offensive. Sometimes the Ryan Kessler line, for example, he came back from a hip injury and he still hasn't been 100% all season. And even since he came back in December, scoring can be an issue from time to time. And they do let up a lot of shots occasionally. But I think this is a group that could be together and win some games. The Sharks are, again, like some of these other teams, they're the Sharks. We kind of know what they are. They're Joe Thornton, Joe Pavelski, that whole unit. Martin Jones in net. They're a solid group, but they did struggle down the stretch. They were, I think, 1-7 or 2-7 down the stretch, and that's how the Ducks were able to pass them up. Not the best time to have a slump if you're the Sharks. But again, I don't even know what else there is to say about them, because it's kind of the same group. I don't think there's any. I guess the big thing for them that they did give them a little boost at the time was they got Evander Kane from Buffalo at the trade deadline, and he came in and made an immediate impact. He got chemistry with the Joes, and they've been a solid team all year. They've been pretty much in the number 2 spot in the Pacific for the majority of the season, up until the Ducks passed them on the last day. So there you have it, Ducks Sharks.
Well.
I'm biased, but I have Ducks in 6.
Mike?
I'm sorry, Zach, but your Ducks have just been a frustrating watch all season.
Tell me about it, man.
But then I don't know, the Sharks, though, like you said, they completely kind of collapsed there at the end.
Know how to shark it pretty well.
Yeah, you know what? No, fuck it. Yeah, your Ducks have been a frustrating ride this year, but it's the Sharks. They know how to shark. I'm gonna say Ducks in 7.
Oh, you wish another 7th game upon me, Michael? Do you?
I can't in good conscience pick the Sharks to win anything. Just because I've been down this road before with the Caps, with the Blues, and with these idiots. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. I mean, the Sharks may be 10 times better than the Ducks. Maybe it was just a bad stretch the last week of the season there. I don't know. But I can't do it. I got to go with the Ducks. I'll take it in 6. I'll save you that 7th game, Zach.
The annual why do we even bother?
Yeah.
Banquet.
I mean, it's like every year it's always the same 3 teams with me too: the Caps, the Blues, and the freaking Sharks. And I'm finally off all of them. No, I'm sorry. I will believe I will believe you have won the cup when I see you skating around the rink with it. Until then, leave me alone. So I'm taking the Ducks in 6.
The fun thing about this, or the fun little extra fact about this series, Game 4 of this series, as well as Game 4 of Lightning Devils. This is a fun one for all of us American hockey fans. Game 4 of Duck Sharks, Game 4 of Lightning Devils will be broadcast nationally on the Golf Channel.
Oh, God.
So, obviously the main networks that are broadcasting, you got your NBCs, your NBCSNs. NHL Network gets a game occasionally. CNBC, we've seen that before. It's weird to have games on the business channel, but it's an NBC network, and we've seen it before. But this is the first time that Golf Channel has made the rounds. Also, USA Network has been in there recently. But Golf Network, or the Golf Channel, getting 2 games during the Stanley Cup hockey playoffs this season. Aren't we glad the NHL signed an exclusive deal with NBC and didn't open it up to have some games on ESPN?
Yeah,
isn't that wonderful?
Boy.
This is right up there with the NHL on the Outdoor Life Network.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse. Is it the NHL on OLN or the NHL on golf?
Coming up after putting with Paul, NHL Stanley Cup hockey.
I mean, we don't know what's worse. We don't quite know yet. We're going to have to wait to see what the set looks like.
Well,
it'll be the NBC set.
Yeah, because they do that with all these. They just use the NBC sets and then they just put the feed on the channel.
Also,
and it's an NBC owned station, but
also I'm never going to miss an opportunity to post that.
Yeah.
the OLN NHL set.
Oh God!
Right after driving with Miss Daisy, get it? We'll have Stanley Cup hockey here on the Golf Channel.
The OLN programming was so funny because it would be like hiking and bass fishing and barbecuing and off-roading and NHL hockey. And it's just
coming up at the first intermission, skinning a moose here on the Outdoor Life Network.
Like when they changed their name to Versus, it was still the same programming, but at least it was like Versus. It's like, okay, that's a sports channel that a hockey game could be on.
Right.
Ugh, OLN, those were dark days, and it was post-lockout too.
It was
we just dealt with all of that bullshit.
Oh,
and now you got the OLN.
It was a bad time. It was a very bad time.
The ESPN dumped them, and then it's just like, oh, I guess the NHL, the NHL on OLN set is just a high school AV club.
Dude, I think I could probably
construct.
send you a picture of the set from my old station, which is a very small, little, tiny station. Our set looked about as good as this one. I'm dead serious.
I love the NHL on OLN set. It's amazing.
So before
they need to bring it back because OLN became Versus, which actually became NBC Sports.
Right.
Right.
So there's a possibility that this set still exists in some NBC warehouse somewhere. I want them to bring it back.
Honestly, you want
the NHL on golf.
The truth of the matter is, it's probably sitting in some high school somewhere because that's where a lot of the old sets go. Is they donate them to schools, so that it's somebody's using it somewhere. But yeah, what were you going to say, Zach? Before we do what?
Before we finish up with the NHL, I think we got to make a cup pick.
Okay.
I'm going to save mine for last because I think mine's going to blow you both off. So, Mike? What do you got for your cup contenders and pick?
I am going to go hyper homer on this.
Oh,
because I don't care anymore. You know what? Fuck Vegas. Fuck Nashville. Fuck Washington. It's going to be Toronto-Winnipeg, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Toronto-Winnipeg, and NBC will set itself on fire, and that's what's going to happen.
And who do you got winning? Your Maple Leafs, of course?
Oh, of course, my Maple Leafs. My Maple Leafs winning.
Of course. Greg?
I am going to go with I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning knocking off. I don't want to go all chalk here. No. Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Winnipeg Jets in what will turn out to be a pretty good series.
Well, I guess my Western Conference pick won't surprise either of you. Winnipeg. I've been on Winnipeg for a bit.
Well, you talked me into them.
Yeah, I like Winnipeg a lot to win the West. And their competitor in the Stanley Cup Final, the Washington Capitals.
Uh-oh.
Do the Capitals get over the hump, or do they just save the ultimate capitaling for last?
Winnipeg in 6.
I thought you were going to say Winnipeg in a reverse sweep.
Mike, you've got to give him the business now, because if I had picked the Capitals, you'd have been all over me. So come on, tell him why he's wrong.
Zachary.
No,
must we do this?
No. I have it. I have it this time.
3 years in.
Nope. The Caps are gonna beat the Blue Jackets there in 6 games.
Okay.
And they'll play Pittsburgh in the second round, knock them off in 7.
Okay, now I know you're being silly because come on.
No. The Penguins have been decimated by 2 straight years, and I think the Capitals are going to say, fuck it, we are done with this nonsense. We're doing it this time, and they're going to do it.
Dude.
And then they're going to beat Tampa Bay in 7, and then they're going to lose to Winnipeg in the final.
Dude, that was my St. Louis
down Portage Maine in Winnipeg.
That was my St. Louis Blues logic for like 3 straight seasons. Fuck it, we're finally going to do it. That's what I told myself I was like, no, this year they're going to go, you know what? No, we're not letting this happen. Except, you know what?
Do it this time.
No, okay. All right.
Look, I want...
Nobody else is picking them, but I will.
That's the worst reasoning.
Not only that, we've been down this road too.
I know.
We are out of roads with the Washington Capitals. We've done it all.
I might be right. I'm going
to kill if the Washington Capitals lose in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs this year, next year I am going to go up and murder everyone who tells me the Capitals are finally going to win the cup.
If they don't do it this year, if they don't do it this year, they're literally never, ever going to do it. This is my last shot with them too. I don't know. I just have this thing.
Shall I dig up a show from?
Do it this time.
Should I dig up a show from 2 years ago where we're saying the exact same thing about this team?
This is our last shot with the Capitals. More after this.
It's almost verbatim. If they don't do it this year, they're never going to do it. We said that 2 years ago.
Here's what's going to happen. The Penguins are going to beat the Capitals in the second round of the playoffs, and I'm going to watch the urinating tree video on it on repeat for 20 straight minutes. That's what's going to happen.
I'm going to go one better. My Blue Jackets are going to take these guys out in the first round.
That's fine too. Look, I would love it either way. I love Capital Schadenfreude, and I love, and I would love to see them finally do it.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing them do it either. It wouldn't bother me at all.
Hell, but here's the thing with the Capitals. For them to, quote-unquote, finally do it, all they need to do is get to the conference final. They've never even done that in the Ovechkin era.
the most successful Capitals team is still what? The
98 Capitals that got swept by the Red Wings.
Who the hell was even on that team besides
Peter Bondra?
Joe Juneau, Peter Bondra, Adam Oates.
Adam Oates, that's who I was thinking.
Was that Ole the goalie?
That was only the goalie, yep.
Joey Juneau?
Joey Juneau, yeah. Yep, I remember that team.
Yeah, sure. And they had the coolest Capitals uniforms of all time.
Yeah, you know what? The current Capitals look, I'm over the current Capitals look. I don't.
Oh, this is one that needs to change. Like,
I don't know I don't know if going back to the '90s look is the way to go, but like they just need to change it. I'm over it.
Oh yeah.
It was
like this look is so synonymous with failure at this point too. Like how, and the worst part was like changing over to the Adidas template. It gave you a chance for a new lease on life, but they said, "No, we like our stupid, shitty failure of a Reebok template. Just shoehorn that onto your thing somehow." And it made it look even worse.
It was it was great. Like. When the Edge uniforms came out, because it was one of the only ones that wasn't like just templated garbage, but it was
a new look for hockey and it kind of worked at the time.
But it just has not aged well. And as everyone else sort of realized that, hey, that Reebok templated stuff, we don't have to do that anymore. Like the Capitals just kind of didn't realize it.
Yeah. The speaking of the looks of all these series, Capitals, Blue Jackets, and I guess Ducks, Sharks, those are the only ones that don't look fantastic. The rest of them are actually pretty good aesthetically, I think.
I'm just going to say the Toronto-Boston one might be the best looking matchup.
Oh, Toronto-Boston. Yeah. I like Winnipeg, Minnesota's up there.
Mm-hmm.
Flyers, Penguins is good. Surprisingly, Knights, Kings is actually okay.
See, I'm not as big on those Knights uniforms as you guys are. They're not bad, but I would not put that in the...
And by the way, finally seeing the Avalanche jerseys in person for the first time this year when they played the Ducks last week.
Mm-hmm.
God, so much of an improvement. I looked at them like, oh hell, that's the Colorado Avalanche. Look at them.
Well, they wore those fucking Reebok disasters.
I know.
For so many years. Oh God.
They look clean and just like the Avalanche. It was kind of refreshing to see.
Mike's Bruins. Sorry about that, Mike. Mike's Maple Leafs and the Bruins, that's the best looking series. And I'm with you, Zach. I think Wild Jets probably next after that.
Wild Jets, Flyers, Penguins is good. Now the Penguins have gone back to throwback.
I can't say Nashville, Colorado, though, because God damn it, Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville screwed it up.
Like what happened there? I think what we speculated, it was just Adidas said, all right, Nashville, what do you like about your uniforms? And
yellow!
Yellow!
We like the yellow, and it's like, anything else?
Nope.
Yellow.
Well, it's like reportedly with the Devils. It's like, what do you like about your uniforms? The shoulder yoke. Well, nope, that's not what made the Devils uniforms the Devils uniforms, but sure, you still have your shoulder yoke.
Yeah, they have the shoulder yoke, and they also have a red collar to symbolize the Kansas City Scouts. And
yes. and that the one stripe on the bottom for the Newark Bulldogs.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Can't forget those. And the Colorado Rockies arm stripes. Recognize those anywhere.
You mean the three stripes of equal width? That's like literally the most basic hockey uniform.
No, they're wider than before.
Gentlemen, it is time to reveal the championship participants in the 2018 Glorious Tournament of Victory.
God.
Are we ready?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm ready.
Here we go.
Oh, man.
I have not seen these results. We are all seeing them for the first time. In our first matchup, from the Doug Peterson knows what it means to be a Cleveland Brown region, number 1 seed, KFC Statue in a River in Japan, taking on from the Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence, 13 seed Cosmic Turtle. Any thoughts before I reveal the score and give us our first championship participants?
Wild Wings 64, I think, said it best that, the KFC statue took down a celestial body at one point.
It did beat Jupiter.
It did beat Jupiter in the first year of the tournament. So that being said, and that this is the point where Cosmic Turtle bowed out of last year's tournament. So I'm going to say KFC statue. I hate to go against my boy Cosmic Turtle, but I'm going to say KFC statue. That's what my gut says.
Zach?
I've been on that Cosmic Turtle. I mean, we're all riding on the Cosmic Turtle, but I've been riding him in this tournament. I gotta go with my boy the Turtle.
And a final.
I'm going with the Turtle. I don't want to ascribe a gender to the Cosmic Turtle.
And a final score of 20-13.
Yes.
Your first participant in the 2018 Glorious Tournament of Victory Championship match is
La La Land.
Cosmic Turtle.
Whoa! Woo!
Cosmic Justice prevails. The Turtle moves on and will play in the championship.
Wow. 20-13, you said?
20-13. And finally, from the goddamn Batman Memorial Region, number 2 seed, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, Manitoba, taking on, from the Chubbs Peterson Memorial Region, number 12 seed, and tournament powerhouse, Mother Russia.
I'm gonna say Moose Leg. The Moose Leg has something magical about it. It's been transcending competition since the very beginning. Zach's tournament has been stacked from day one, and we saw what came out of it. Like, I've got to believe in anything that's able to come out of that field. And Mother Russia has had a hell of a run, but I think that this is finally when the Russian vote bots run out of steam.
Zach?
Yeah, I agree with everything Mike said. And then I'll also add in, and I wanted to get to this at some point during the show, but we can talk about it afterwards. You got to think that there's some sympathy votes out there for the rural Plains of Canada Conference after this week. So, Flin Flon, Manitoba, right across the border from Saskatchewan. I believe they play in the same league that the Humboldt Broncos played in.
They do, I believe so.
Right, yeah.
So, I'm going to go Moose Leg.
And a final score of 19-14. Your second participant in the 2018 Glorious Tournament of Victory Championship match, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, Manitoba.
Oh, man. Wow, what a final.
What a final we have here.
Oh, my God.
If there was ever a time where you would say, it's a shame one of these has to lose, this is it. This is it, folks. I'm going to go right out and say this is the greatest finals matchup we've ever had in this tournament.
I have no idea who will win between these two.
The Cosmic Turtle,
holy crap,
sails through the universe on solar winds, dispensing wisdom, versus the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, who literally shut down Flin Flon, Manitoba's internet.
It's a battle for the ages, folks.
I've got chills. I've got chills, guys. I've got chills.
Honestly, if there were any justice in the world, we would just stop right now and declare them both co-champions. And
oh, my God. Cosmic Turtle versus Moose Leg. I couldn't have predicted this. This is insane.
Cosmic Turtle gets justice from the, I think, screwing he got last year, only to come back and take on the Moose Leg.
Wow. I think the Moose Leg lost in the semis last year as well.
Yeah, I think Moose Leg lost to the Chip Mariachi Band, actually.
It did, right.
Yeah.
So redemption for both, but only one can survive.
This is an epic battle here, folks. So again, the championship match voting link will be posted by the time you hear this, but the 2018 Glorious Tournament of Victory Championship, number 13 seed Cosmic Turtle, taking on number 2 seed, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, Manitoba. Folks, it doesn't get any better than that. Is that all we got for tonight, guys?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, you know the routine, folks. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. You can subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook. And with that, we will see you next time.
Adios.
Later.